So what is a survey? The basic definition of a survey is that it is a method of using questionnaires to discover characteristics of a phenomenon. So whenever you are administering lists of questions, usually to people, and you can do it electronically on the web or over the phone or in the paper and pencil format, you are using a survey. Now, questionnaires are sometimes used also in other research designs, especially in experiments. So remember, if you are doing an experiment and it involves administering lists of questions, we say we administered a questionnaire and not that we administered a survey. So that's an important thing to remember, the distinction. Survey is the name of the whole research design, and the questionnaire is the basic instrument of measurement used in this research design. The method of using surveys is good for especially two things. For describing phenomena, for example, if you want to know what people think about the newest policy that the Congress has passed, you want to describe their opinion or whether the trends are in the opinion, and so that's what survey is really good for. You can ask them these questions. And another thing surveys are very good for is the association or predicting associations between different variables. For instance, if you want to know if there is a relationship between your gender and your level of public speaking anxiety, it is very easy to measure this association by using surveys. Simply, you need to ask a sample of people what their gender is, and also you have to ask them a list of questions, or sometimes just one question, that may be enough, that measures how anxious they are about speaking in public. And then you can measure the correlation between gender and the level of public speaking anxiety. What surveys are not good for is testing cause and effect relationships. They're not good for that because they don't fulfill one basic condition. In order to test or be able to tell that one thing causes another, you have to be able to actually see the cause happening first and the effect happening next. You have to be able to observe them in time. But when you are administering a questionnaire and you're asking people about a bunch of things, you're not observing those things as they happen over time. You are simply asking people to report on a bunch of things to you. So for instance, let's say that I'm interested in whether watching Fox News makes people more conservative than they normally would be. And think about this following approach. Let's say that I have a questionnaire, and inside this questionnaire I ask them, how many hours per week do you spend watching Fox News? And it can be anything from 0 to whatever. And then the other question or a series of questions might be measuring how liberal or how conservative people are. So perhaps I might ask a bunch of questions about different positions on issues like abortion and war and taxes and other things that usually help you tell if a person is a conservative or a liberal, right? And then at the end, I could correlate the amount of exposure to Fox News to the level of conservatism. So I can tell if there is an association between conservatism and Fox News consumption. But can I tell that these people are conservative because they watched Fox News? What if they watch Fox News because they're conservative? So what if conservatism was there first and then that led them to watch Fox News? Or what if maybe they started watching the station and that made them more conservative? The trouble is with a survey, with a simple questionnaire, you cannot tell. You cannot tell which came first because you are asking people to report to you on those two things at one point in time. And it would be absolutely pointless to ask people has watching Fox News made you conservative? Or did you start watching Fox News because you were conservative? And I want to ask your opinion. Why would it be pointless to ask people such a question? I have a separate space in the website where I'm going to ask you to answer that question for me. There are two basic types of surveys in terms of the way in which you conduct them, or the number of times you administer them to each person. The basic type of survey, the most common one that is used most frequently, is called the Cross-Sectional Survey. This is a type of survey where you administer the questionnaire only once, and it's administered to a cross-section of people that have different characteristics, so that you can compare how people with different characteristics respond on a different set of questions. For example, you would use a cross-sectional survey if you wanted to see if there is an association between gender and fear of public speaking, because really you need to collect it just once. And you have all the information you need. You have the information about gender, and then you have the information about the fear of public speaking. But sometimes we want to see how things change over time in the same group of people. For example, some researchers may be interested in how young people's attitudes about the opposite sex change as they grow up. So you know how, for example, when kids are little, girls really don't like boys and boys don't like girls. They don't hang out with each other. Girls think that boys are dirty and violent, and boys think that girls are girly and boring. But that changes, of course, when you get into your teens. You begin to be really interested in the opposite sex. So if you wanted to see how these attitudes change at different point in life, you would use a longitudinal survey. That means that you would take a sample of, let's say, kids, beginning with fairly young kids, maybe 7 or 8, and you would have these children fill out a questionnaire, or if it might be too difficult for them, you could just do an interview where you would ask these questions directly, the same questions several times over a period of years. So you could administer the questionnaire for the first time when the kids are 8, then when they're 10, then when they're 12, then when they're 15, and then when they're 18. If you wanted to be interested in how the attitudes about the opposite sex change over time in a group of people. This is the basic type of a longitudinal survey. Now go to an activity that comes with this video, and I have a few more examples of specific studies for you, and I would like you to decide in each case, would a cross-sectional design or a longitudinal design be more appropriate in each case?